What is up, YouTube? And welcome back to Yu-Gi-Oh! House. Guys, today I'm bringing you Draco Slayers with Super Heavy Samurai and plus Post Megatons. Guys, this is by far the most budget-friendly combo wombo deck there is out there. If you want to start going to your local scene, going to an OTS, or maybe even dipping your toes and heading towards a regional, this is the deck for you. Do not listen to the haters. Pendulums are super easy to learn, and if you take the time to really read the cards, you'll understand why there's so much synergy in this deck. Guys, let's go ahead and jump in. Alright guys, we're gonna be doing this deck profile a little bit differently than what you guys are used to on our channel. I'm gonna go ahead and lay out most of the cards for each archetype when I'm explaining them, because it is kind of tough to talk about these cards individually because of how much synergy overlaps when we're talking about cards in the archetype. And specifically here, we have 3 copies of Majesty Pegasus the Draco Slayer, 3 copies of Dynamite Powerload the Draco Slayer, 3 copies of Ignis Phoenix the Draco Slayer, 3 copies of Luster Pendulum the Draco Slayer, and 2 copies of Magispector Raccoon Bumbuku. Guys, this is the core part of the engine. Majesty Pegasus is terraforming on legs. You want to start to get these 3 cards in rotation as soon as possible, with priority on, like I said, Majesty Pegasus the Draco Slayer. The field spells you search for post side can completely shut out your opponent, but in the main deck, we're searching for cards like the Sky Iris, which helps us play through an eruption. So getting into Majesty Pegasus early and often is the right play. Like I said earlier, we are wanting to get into these as soon as possible. Why? Because Dynamite Powerload the Draco Slayer keeps your hand size large enough that way you can extend through these heavy combos. This is a heavy combo deck, and you're gonna wanna make sure that you have enough cards in hand to not only play on turn 2, but to outgrind your opponent, which is kind of hard to do when you're playing Pendulums. Dynamite Powerload the Draco Slayer, one is tributed for the fusion summon of the extra deck monster. I have it here. That way you guys can get a visual reference. Here, whenever you're tributed, it can add back any face-up Draco Slayer from the extra deck to the hand. Now, Ignis Phoenix the Draco Slayer is part of the trio you want to start getting into rotation. When Ignis Phoenix is destroyed, whether he's in the Pendulum Zone or in the Monster Zone, he's going to be able to special summon either one of these 3 from the deck, and not only that, it's treated as a tuner. So you can start getting into those synchro plays and get the ball rolling. I know what you're thinking, where's the vanilla one? But in all honesty, it's really cool card, has a really cool design, but we're not here for aesthetics. We're here to combo our butts off. So 3 copies of Luster Pendulum the Draco Slayer is what I decided to go with. This recently got bumped up to 2 in Master Duel, and it's interesting to see what's gonna happen in Master Duel because they do have cards like Electromite, but here in the TCG, we are fortunate enough to have 3 copies of Luster Pendulum, which combos off excellently with Ignis Phoenix. Being able to scale both of them, popping Ignis Phoenix and then popping off with some synchro summons is the route to go. Not only that, you guys wanna keep in mind, typing in this deck is everything. The fact that this card is a dragon means so much for this strategy, and you'll see why. And I know what you're thinking, that's not a Draco Slayer. Magispector Bumbuku doesn't have Draco Slayer in its name, but it does have Magispector in its name, which is incredibly important for Majesty Pegasus specifically, because if you have another Magispector or a Draco Slayer in your other Pendulum Zone, you can search the deck and then destroy a card, which is super important when we're going for plays. Like I said, the Ignis Phoenix play is what gets this the tuners from the deck highly important. But not only that, Magispector Bumbuku is actually a pretty solid normal summon, not your priority normal summon. It is obviously the auxiliary normal summon. The fact that it's a level 3 does kind of suck. I'm not gonna lie, you do kind of want some level 4s in the deck, so that's why I ended up cutting Magispector Bumbuku to 2. But it's just too good not to play. Being able to just search for Majesty Pegasus or for another copy of itself is highly highly warranted for the strategy. You want to be able to have as many copies of these cards in the hand early and often. Like I said, these are the cards you want to get in rotation. That way you can start to combo off and fight through interruption. That is it, guys, for our Draco Slayer engine. You guys can see that the engines are pretty large, and that is fairly standard for pen decks. 3 copies of Prodigy, 2 copies of Big Banky, 3 copies of Motorbike, absolutely outrageous, and a single copy of Soul Gaia Booster. Now, I'll explain the super heavy samurai portion of the engine. I know you guys are thinking, man, but if I play super heavy samurai, then I'm not gonna be able to play a lot of spells and traps. And besides, Majesty Pegasus, doesn't it search for a spell? But guys, it is searching for a field spell. The Sky Iris will remain face up on the field and will not go to graveyard when you activate it. So you get the opportunity to pop off with a heavy, super heavy samurai engine. This engine does way more for this strategy than any spell or trap could. Let's be real. 3 copies of Motorbike is super important. This card is, I want to say, semi-limited in the OCG, and for good reason. Every searcher is only as good as the card you search for. And super heavy samurai Prodigy Wakaushi is one of the most insane pendulum cards ever printed. It is a pen scale by itself. Just one card sets up a generic scale. It's not like Skullcrobat Joker or a lot of the Performapals where it locks you into some sort of maybe only summoning Performapals or giving it an awkward scale if there's not another Performapal in the scale zone. No, these are completely generic scales and they're huge. A scale 8 and a scale 1. I don't know what they were thinking, but this strategy is absolutely absurd. Getting into a Baronne de Fleur before you commit your normal summon, that's absurd. You have full protection from things like Nibiru, or even some sort of hand trap on Beyond the Pendulum. It's just way too good. I decided actually to go with Soul Gaia Booster over the Soul Gaia Piercer for the simple reason that I didn't really see myself searching through cards like Soul Piercer. I wanted to focus on getting cards on the field. I wanted to focus on comboing because that's what this deck is known for. It's known for its combo wombos that put up 6 to 7 interruptions. And you really can't do that without this engine here. This is what protects you from silly cards like Nibiru. So guys, this is super, super important. And not only that, I know you guys see the rarities. You guys see the rarities. This is common and super. This is a super budget-friendly deck that if you're wanting to take to locals and really grind the deck out and learn its combo routes, it'll be super, super rewarding. The most expensive card that you're seeing here is super heavy samurai Prodigy Wakaushi, and I want to say on TCG Player it's about $2, but everything else are common printings, so you should be able to get them at your local game store. Go ahead and support them because they're the backbone of our game. That's it for the super heavy samurai engine. Guys, super, super important to the strategy. Now moving on to the, I want to say, the bread and butter of the strategy, the OG of the OGs, the Performapal engine. 3 copies of Performapal Skullcrobat Joker, 1 copy of Performapal Pendulum Sorcerer, and here's where things get funky. 1 copy of Performapal Odd Eyes Synchron. I know you guys see the Odd Eyes in the name. Performapal Odd Eyes Seer. 1 copy of Performapal Odd Eyes Dissolver. 1 copy of Odd Eyes Arc Pendulum Dragon. And 3 copies of Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon. Now, I'm showing you guys this deck profile, trying to split it up by archetypes. So you're wanting to notice now that these here are exclusively Performapals, these here are exclusively Odd Eyes, but what makes these cards such heavy hitters is that the fact that they are both in name, Performapal and Odd Eyes. So they're easily accessible through cards like Performapal Pendulum Sorcerer, Sky Iris, the list goes on and on. Performapal Skullcrobat Joker is the most insane freaking normal summon in this deck. It does so much for this strategy. Getting into Performapal Pendulum Sorcerer early, that way you can pend it out and search for the more unfair cards with Beyond the Pendulum is really what we're looking for. Now, Performapal Pendulum Sorcerer is how we get into our Omni Negates. Odd Eyes Synchron and Odd Eyes Dissolver, these two here is what you'll be searching for if we didn't open up Motorbike. Remember I mentioned earlier, if you open up Motorbike, then you have access to Baronne early because of cards like Axel Synchro Stardust Dragon. But if you weren't able to open Motorbike, then searching for Odd Eyes Synchron and Odd Eyes Dissolver for 2 Omni Negates is just OD, guys. It's so unfair what this deck provides. I'm so serious. We really are lucky that Drooling Lockbird is a card. Then, if you were able to open up that Motorbike, then I like to search for cards like Odd Eyes Seer. It makes sure that you can recycle cards from grave, like Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon if you were to use its effect to search, or maybe even add back the Odd Eyes Arc Pendulum Dragon if you were to fuse it off, because it's high scale. Guys, we want to keep in mind that scales are super important to this strategy, super important if you're new to the pendulum mechanic. You guys see here a pen scale of 1 and a pen scale of 8. We saw that earlier. A pen scale of 8 and a pen scale of 1. That usually helps you pen out your entire hand and a lot of your extra deck. Very good when it comes to this strategy. So a lot of people, they question, oh, why do you run Seer? Why do you run Odd Eyes Arc Pendulum? Well, that's why. Because of the fact that you can search for a low scale, which is highly effective in the pen scale, and Odd Eyes Arc Pendulum Dragon, which again is highly effective in that pen scale because of its effect to special summon an Odd Eyes from the deck. Very good. Now, Odd Eyes Dissolver is how we get into our Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon, our in-archetype Omni Negate. Very good. Now, you will notice a small trend. Again, if you're new to the pendulum mechanic, you will notice that a lot of the monsters that have a really good pendulum effect will often have a weird and awkward scale. With a scale of 4 means you're not able to pendulum summon out monsters that are level 4. So guys, keep that in mind when you're building out your pendulum decks, that these awkward scales like Monkey Board and Odd Eyes Dissolver, they're there for a reason. They're there to keep the card in check. Now, onto the most outrageous part of this deck. There is no reason why this card should be at 3. Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon is probably one of the most busted cards ever printed. I have no idea how this card has not been hit on the ban list or put. It's probably because of Electromite, let's be real, and the fact that we only have 1 Astrograph Sorcerer. But speaking of the devil, these 2 cards in tandem, Astrograph Sorcerer plus Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon, that's the forbidden combo, guys. That is the forbidden combo. Because when you pop Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon via its effect, Astrograph Sorcerer triggers in hand, you can special summon it out into the field, getting you another body, and searching for an Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon, which is not once per turn. You heard me right. Guys, Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon is not once per turn, meaning you can use it several times if you have multiple in hand, and you're bringing back a Synchro monster with a soft once per turn effect. You already see where this is going. Guys, this is truly a combo wombo deck. You can make some of the most insane boards, putting up 6 to 7 interruptions just by opening up Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon and then searching Astrograph Sorcerer via Beyond the Pendulum. It's super strong, and you guys can already see I've kind of slimmed down this. I've cut Monkey Board, I've cut a lot of the other Odd Eyes cards that I didn't really feel fit the deck because I really wanted to at least play a playset of a hand trap, because going second, this deck does kind of struggle. It is still pendulums and it's still a rogue strategy, so you want to be able to give it a small enough boost to really perform at locals. And if you're wanting to really take this deck to regionals, gonna have to make some adjustments and probably trim some of the fat. But this here is not the fat of the deck. This is definitely bread and butter combos. Guys, this is unreal that we can even do this. We are so lucky that Astrograph Sorcerer is legal. All right, now moving on to the non-engine part of the deck. Yes, guys, I do play a single copy of a Morphage Sloth. Say what you want about it. I really don't care. I'm not gonna lie. Scythe was legal for so long for a reason, and I mean, gimmick puppet locking your opponent is a thing. Trying to FTK your opponent with King Calamities is a thing. So I'm not above it. I'm not above hitting my opponent with something absolutely unfair and ridiculous. You end with enough dragons on the field where you can put up Hieratic Sphere of Heavenly Circle. How does he say it? Hieratic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres, and that just immediately shotguns this from the deck. Just absolutely unfair. This is essentially Scythe Lock on legs. Keep in mind it does affect you as well, but there's really no stopping you from popping it and then comboing off. It's usually what I do, and then later in the turn, pen summon it back out as the last thing you do, so that way you can swing into your opponent and pass on a Morphage Sloth in attack mode with that 2250 attack. Very hard to beat over on a normal summon body or anything from the actual main deck, with maybe the exception of Kashtira, but that deck is already really hard to deal with when you're playing Pendulums, so honestly, I don't even keep it in mind. Next, 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. I know you guys heard me say it earlier. It was unfortunately the only non-engine I could fit in the deck besides a Morphage Sloth because of how big the engine requirements are. You can't really play one Wakaushi and one Big Benki and hope you draw the motorbike. It is really good when you hard open things like, honestly, it is kind of cool when you open up cards like Big Benki and Wakaushi, just because of the fact that the scales are just so generic that you can pen out almost your whole hand or get into Beyond the Pendulum if you're able to do a couple of plays and then pen that way. Super, super strong. But guys, Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring is the most generic hand trap I could think of. It hits the broadest amount of decks. You got a little sneak peek into the side deck. When I started the video, I decided to, sideline Drolan Lockbird and go for a more generic hand trap like Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring that still hits decks like Labyrinth when Drolan Lockbird doesn't really do anything in that strategy. So you want to be able to play generic enough hand traps where it's gonna make high impact that game 1, so you can potentially crack the board if you're going second or going first, hold that Ash and have an interruption that they can't account for. All right, and the last card in the deck, making it a perfect 40 card deck, is Sky Iris. You guys saw a little bit of this when I was talking about Majesty Pegasus. It's super easily accessible. You can search for it as soon as you special summon Majesty Pegasus via a Draco Slayer effect and grab this card. This helps you play through stupid things like Nibiru if you're able to get into the motorbike early. Several different things. Sky Iris really does a whole lot for this strategy. I like to target the Synchro Monster, pop it, grab Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon, bring it back, use its effect again. It's unfair the amount of times you're able to special summon Ignis Phoenix and use its effect. It's absolutely ridiculous. Guys, now let's get into that extra deck. I want to start off with our Link monsters. Hieratic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres, I know I mentioned earlier. This is a key M-board piece. Going first, not really going second, and even post side. I'll show you guys some of the tech options that you have for Hieratic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres. If you're noticing that, well, maybe a Morphage Sloth isn't the best route to go to, Kashtira really can play without its extra deck. It can put up a whole OTK without even touching it. So a lot of times I'll side cards like a Morphage Sloth out for that. That way I can have high impact cards. You'll see later in the side deck. 2 copies of Beyond the Pendulum. Wow, man, the Megatins are super, super clutch for reprinting this card. This card was getting super pricey. I think it was at 20 bucks and it was hindering a lot of the people from actually getting this deck because the main deck, as you guys saw, is super budget friendly. There aren't too many cards in here that cost more than, I want to say, even $5 a pop. So budget friendly and still so powerful. But Beyond the Pendulum got that reprint in the Megatins, so we will be seeing this card fall heavily in price, which is so good for the game. Not only that, Beyond the Pendulum had that price for a reason, guys. This is an absurd card. It's Electromite at home. When you ask your mom, oh, mom, can we stuff from McDonald's? No, we got food at home. No, yeah, this is food at home. I'm not gonna lie. Beyond the Pendulum is the arroz con huevos that you guys have in the fridge that's been sitting there for 2 days. Yeah, it's still really good. It's still really good, guys. This searches for any Pendulum card. So if you hard open things or able to search for your Pen Sorcerer, like I was saying earlier, you can search for cards like Astrograph Sorcerer, which is absurd. This card is at 1. It's supposed to be hard to open, and Beyond the Pendulum just kind of says, yeah, guys, forget that. I'm gonna search for Astrograph whenever I want to. It is absolutely absurd. And it has a built-in effect to pop. So if you special summon Magispector Bumbuku from the extra deck and another level 4, then you can use its effect, proc Astrograph if you know you're not gonna be able to get into Odd-Eyes Revolution Dragon. There's so many different plays you can do, and playing 2 of it, I know you noticed, playing 2 of it is the sweet spot. You can use it in turn 2, or if the first one gets hand trapped, then you can just make a second one. There's nothing stopping you from doing that search. I know you see it. There's no once per turn on that first effect. That once per turn is on the pop effect, which helps you break boards, does a whole lot. Beyond the Pendulum, absolutely absurd. Such a good card. Selene, Queen of the Master Magicians, another part of the combo that we're gonna be playing. Revives back Odd-Eyes Synchron and then Odd-Eyes Synchron. Special Dissolver from the Pen Zone. There's so many plays this card has. It can revive back Majesty Pegasus. It won't get its effect to terraforming, but you still have a Draco Slayer on field. There's just so many different things you can do with this card. And I know what you're thinking. Wait, what? How are you getting its effect off? How are you getting its effect off? Guys, when we scale 2 cards, oh, that's not a pen monster, sorry. When we scale 2 cards and then activate Sky Iris, you count it. 1, 2, 3 spells, boom, 3 counters on Selene, and there you go. You get your 3 counters, you're able to special summon out your spellcaster. Next, Apollousa, Bull of the Goddess. This card is just a staple in this deck. I really can't put it any other way. It puts in so much work. Being able to pivot into this card when you get interrupted is so strong. There's so many decks that really have a tough time playing through that many negates and really can't afford to go into battle and pass to you because you're just gonna OTK the crap out of them. This deck, unlike most Pendulum decks, adds a lot of cards to hand during the end phase, so you're able to have a lot of follow-up. You're putting a clock on your opponent, and Apollousa does just that. Puts a lot of pressure on your opponent. You can pivot into it knowing that you're probably not going to end on Heretic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres. There's so many different things you can do, and to kind of complement that Apollousa and complement the combo in general, World Sea Dragon Zealantis. When this card got announced, this was the deck that everyone was talking about, that World Sea Dragon Zealantis was gonna really push over the edge. A lot of the extra deck monsters, the Draco Slayers, are soft ones per turn. So once you bring them back out onto the field, after blinking them out with this effect, you can use the effect again. Absolutely absurd. Don't know who printed this card, don't really care, because it's amazing. Firewall Dragon Singularity, the last Link monster I play in the deck. I really want to say that this card was a mistake. Yes, you heard me right. There is a reason why cards like Mudora and Keldo are at 1, because shuffling back from the graveyard is killer. Being able to shuffle back from the graveyard on a quick effect when you use cards like Xyz monsters, like Synchro monsters, and like Fusion monsters, that's 3 bounces in 1. Yes, that's Keldo and Mudora on legs on a 3,500 freaking body. Firewall Dragon Singularity is so OD. It is Heretic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres on crack. Being able to bounce to hand is just so good, especially in a strategy, and especially in a meta where things are so diverse. You're not just playing against cash. Let's be real. I went to this past regional in Stone Mountain and played 9 complete rounds. Did not see a single cash tier player. Not with this deck, guys. Let me go ahead and say that out loud. Not with this deck, but I did go to the Stone Mountain regional. Shout out to Pac. Pac was there, and Firewall Dragon Singularity would have done so much work there just because of all the decks. Like, think about Unchained, where if your deck relies on destroying cards on the field to get rid of your opponent's monsters, you're gonna have a tough time against Unchained. But Firewall Dragon Singularity just kind of laughs that off. So very good. Very good. I think this is the Link lineup I'm going to be going with from now on. If you guys have any recommendations for Link monsters, I would definitely love to hear them in the comment section. This deck is absurd and it puts up so many monsters that Firewall Dragon Singularity is so easy to get in. Like I said, that's it for the Link monsters, guys. I only play 1 Xyz monster, 1 copy of Magister Paladin, the Ascending Draco Slayer. On summon, it has for the newer players, a Magnum Mutt like search effect, where on summon, it procs and lingers until the end phase where it will eventually resolve. So if you don't ash it right there and then, if they don't ash you right there and then, they can't ash you during the end phase, guys. That's not how that works. It activates on summon, lingers, then resolves during the end phase. So keep that in mind. Nobody can ash you on that during the end phase. They have to ash you there and then on summon. And then this card can bring back from the face-up extra deck any Draco Slayer by detaching, sending a Spellcaster to grave, potentially, and being able to pop off with Selene. There's just so many plays this card does. It is actually the only Xyz monster I decided to go with. I ended up cutting Titanic Galaxy for some cards you will see later. And that specific card that I cut for Titanic Galaxy is Axel Synchro Stardust Dragon. Who at Konami was responsible for this card, bro? I just want to talk to you. I want to tell you I love you because this card is absurd. This card is absurd. Motorbike, opening up Motorbike wins you the game. I'm telling you right now, opening up Motorbike and what? Any normal summon body? That's it. You win the game. Because you're able to get into Axel Synchro Stardust Dragon, revive back the Motorbike. You guys know how to do math. 2 + 8 = 10. And what is the best Synchro 10 in the game? Baronne de Fleur. Absolutely ridiculous. Just completely protects the rest of your strategy. 2 copies of Ignister Phoenix, the Draco Slayer, the Blazing Draco Slayer. Absolutely absurd. That the fact that you can use this card up to 4 to 5 times per turn, all under the protection of Baronne. Just absolutely absurd. Thank God for Droll and Logbird, because if not, this deck would be by far the best deck in the game, and I don't think anybody would be able to keep up with it. And the last Synchro monster I run in the strategy is 1 copy of Boros Savage. Guys, being able to flex into an Omnigate is ridiculous. And you guys saw all the Link monsters I play. If you're able to equip something like Zealantis or Firewall Dragon Singularity, it's pretty much over from there, guys. Being able to have that Omni Negate plus the attack boost, this card gets so big. It's more of a turn 2 play. I'm not gonna lie. When I'm most likely making this card, it's because of turn 2 and it's my crackback kind of play. But if you have to flex into it, what better plan B than a freaking Omni Negate? Boros Savage Dragon, not Boros Furious, that's the fusion monster. Boros Savage Dragon is one of the most ridiculous Synchro monsters ever printed. So good in this strategy. Now the last 2 cards in the extra deck, 1 copy of Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon and 1 copy of Dynamite, the True Draco, the Dynamite Power, the Mighty Draco Slayer. Sorry guys, I don't know the names by memory. I just know the quick little things of what they do and the fact that, you know, they're absolutely absurd. Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon is the in-archetype Omni Negate. It's very easy to get into with the cards you saw earlier. I'll show you now. I'll just go ahead and pull them out of the deck. Odd Eyes Dissolver helps you get into Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon through its Pend effect. So good. Getting into an Omni Negate, ending on several Omni Negates. Man, it's just so OD. I've had boards where I have Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon, Savage, and Baronne. That's 3 Omni Negates. 3 Omni Negates on a single board. There's really not a lot of decks that can handle something like that. A lot of people aren't on main decking Dark Ruler no more right now. So you're gonna be able to punish strategies like that aren't able to play Dark Ruler no more in the main deck. And Dynamite, of course. Gosh, guys, this card is absolutely absurd. Just these 3 cards in general. Now that I've already talked about Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon, we'll go ahead and pull that off to the side. These 3 cards here are the reason why I mentioned and stressed so much earlier about getting those 3 Draco Slayers early and often into rotation. Once you get all 3 of them into rotation, these 3 cards make insane boards. I mean, the fact that these 2 are soft ones per turn and this one combos so well with the fusion monster is just absurd. Being able to bring back from the graveyard or your hand when Dynamite adds to hand, the cards all work themselves. You'll be able to see quickly while you're testing out the deck that, wow, man, these cards have so much synergy. They really perfected these cards. I mean, before they dropped them, they knew exactly what they were doing. These 3 cards in tandem all work super well with these 3 cards. If you get these early and often, you're gonna be able to get into these early and often and have so much on board that even if you get Nibiru, it never mattered. Guys, that is it for the extra deck. Now, I'm going to show you the side deck because I think it's important that you get a good outline for the side deck, but keep in mind, pay your bills, guys. Pay your car note, pay your rent. Don't buy those cards. With that being said, 3 Droll and Logbird. I think it's a staple of this format. Very good. There are a lot of decks in the format, And what I mean by that, the format is diverse. The format is insanely diverse, and there are so many decks that are taking advantage of the fact that you can search God knows how many times per turn. Infernoble, I slept on it. You guys heard when I was talking about it in my profile, in the tier list, I said that the deck was rogue at best. Guys, it's had a crap ton of regional tops. I didn't even mention Unchained in the video, and guys, I'm so sorry for that. And look at it now. It just took down God knows how many regionals. It was the highest represented deck at the 3v3 YCS. Yes, you heard that right. If you haven't seen the pie chart, go check it out. It was the highest represented deck in Top Cut at the 3v3 YCS. So I was sleeping. Droll and Lockbird is very, very good. They usually start off their turn with Pot of Prosperity. So go ahead and punish them for it. Guys, my rant earlier applies to this card here. Konami, what have you done? Konami, you fumbled. This would have been an excellent ultra rare slot, and probably would have been the only ultra rare slot that you would actually like to pull. I don't think I saw a single ultra rare in the Megaton I would honestly really like to have in my collection. It was really heartbreaking. Yeah, there are a lot of heavy hitters in that secret rare slot, but unfortunately, that ultra rare slot is just lacking. And Kurikara Divine Incarnate missed the reprint on the tins. I'm so sorry. If this is the first time you're hearing that, again, guys, I'm so sorry. But please be fiscally responsible. Do not buy this freaking Kurikara. Moving on, 3 copies of Bestial Magnamut, another key reprint in the tins. You guys are seeing the trend, right? I'm not playing a whole lot of Spell and Trap Disruption because of the Super Heavy Samurai engine. I don't really like siding it out. There's no point in siding it out. If you're gonna side it out, you might as well not even play it. So you have to have these heavy hitters. Again, doesn't mean that you have to play Kurikara Divine Incarnate. I'm not saying that, but it's a very good card, this format. Just completely gets rid of the field. If your opponent does with the Pearly deck, if they do the draws on your turn, that's a monster effect. You just snatch it up with Divine Incarnate. If your opponent Magnamuts and then Magnamuts on field, boom, you snatch that. I mean, there's just so many things that Divine Incarnate does. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Then it snatches during the end phase. So good. It's got that price tag for a reason, unfortunately. And Bestial Magnamut had a similar price tag at its peak during the tier limit format. A lot cheaper now and a lot better now that it's gotten that secret rare printing in the Megatins. So go ahead and pick up your Bestial package. Very, very good. Probably going to spike in price after a little while once it needs to be played, because right now it's in that weird spot of like it hits a lot of decks, you know, can hit the Unchained deck because they have a lot of light and darks in Grave. A lot of them are playing the Underworld, the Tour Guide of the Underworld. They're gonna be putting light and darks in Grave. The Link monster goes to Grave, and that one's a dark monster. So very, very, very good against that strategy. Bestial Magnamut. And I know you guys saw earlier, I was playing Heretic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres. So if you do side out Morphage Sloth, you do have an excellent target for that Bestial Magnamut, which just adds so much interruption in cards like Druid Worm and in cards like Baldrake. I decided to go with Druid Worm and Baldrake because of the interruption factor that they provide. Druid Worm just kind of just absolutely blows out Barone. Just the fact that you open up a Druid Worm already puts that Barone in check. You know you're going to be able to deal with it. And then Baldrake just going first, setting it up. If your opponent has to touch the extra deck, and it's getting freaking banished. It's so good. Baldrake is just amazing. It combos so well with Druid Swarm. Opening these two together is just pretty much GG's. And Dino Wrestler Pankratops. This is the last monster that I play in the side deck. Dino Wrestler Pankratops is one of those monsters where you're not hard losing to things like Enemy Controller, because a lot of the Kashtira players that I've noticed, even when I was playing Kashtira, are still on Enemy Controller. It's why I didn't want to play Fenrir in my side deck or main deck it, because it can just get easily snatched and then I get punished because I played the Fenrir. You know, there's just so many strategies that could honestly take advantage of the fact that you play the Fenrir. If you get drolled on that search, it kind of sucks, but Dino Wrestler Pankratops doesn't have that. It has that 2-for-1 kind of trade where it's big enough where it can beat over just about anything in battle and then tribute itself and then pop something. So good. Dino Wrestler Pankratops is one of the staple cards for the Super Heavy Samurai Draco Slayer side deck because of the fact that it does so much on a monster body, not on a spell and trap. The most insane part about this deck is the fact that you're in archetype terraforming on legs searches for any freaking field spell. And yes, what does that typing say? I said it in the beginning of the video. Typing in this deck is very important. What does that typing say? Yes, sir. Secret Village of the Spellcasters is live as soon as you special summon this card, shutting out your opponent a third of the game. Now they can't play spells. I don't play spells, you can't play spells either. So that's how this deck goes. It's super, super crazy. And in the height of the Tearlament format, Majesty Pegasus was often searching for cards like Necro Valley, which is still really good against the Unchained strategy, still really good against Branded, kind of shuts that whole deck out. And the last kind of flex spot that I wanted to go with, this took the spot of a Cold the Zone, which is a very good field spell against the cash matchup, but that's about it, is Zombie World. Zombie World puts in so much work in that Dragon Link matchup. Once they don't have any dragons on field, they kind of get shut out of any play they can really do. Necro Valley is also really good against that strategy. It's just so many different routes you can take. I think it's honestly a disservice if you don't play at least 3 field spells in the side deck for the Majesty plays, just because the fact that this is terraforming on legs means that you can shut out your opponent super hard with these heavy floodgate-esque field spells. So in my opinion, Secret Village of the Spellcasters, Necro Valley, and Zombie World is the way to go. Again, if you guys have any recommendations, I would love to hear them. I am kind of new to the strategy. I've been playing it super, super heavy. And if you guys want to see a combo video, I'd be more than happy to show you guys. I just didn't want to fit it in the same video as this deck profile because I really wanted to go in depth with the cards, the ratio, all those kinds of sort of things, talk a little bit about the meta, talk a little bit about my experience at this last regionals. So you really, really want to be able to use cards where they're broad enough where you can hit a lot of matchups. Zombie World hits Flu, hits Dragon Links, Necro Valley hits so many strategies. Secret Village of the Spellcaster just shuts Kashtira out. I mean, what? They're gonna special summon Fenrir, and then you win, you know, because you have too much interruption. You have way too much interruption. You put up like 2-3 Omni Negates. Sometimes you put up 7 interruptions in total. Just so good. So guys, if you have some recommendations for the field spells, I would love to hear them. But until then, guys, thank you so much. Like I said, checking back in with the Yu-Gi-Oh house. Peace.